Today's lesson is on solving equations with variables on both sides. So variables are on both sides, which just means you might see an x to the left of the equal sign, and you may see an x on the right side, or a y on both sides, whatever the letters may be. So it helps if you follow the following steps to solve your equations when you do have a variable on both sides. So the first step is going to be to distribute. Now, you don't always have to do this. However, if it's necessary to do so, then you're going to want to start there. So if you see parentheses, remember parentheses generally mean that you're going to have to distribute, and you're going to want to do this first. After you distribute, you're going to want to combine like terms. The next step would be to move all the variables to one side. Now we generally see the variables on the left side, like x equals something. It doesn't matter which side you choose to move it to, but again, it is more common that we move everything to the left, but you can do whatever is easiest. Once you move the variables to one side, you're going to solve. You actually solve for that variable, so you're going to solve the problem. All right, so let's do an example. This first example says 5y minus 8 equals 3y plus 12. I'm going to go ahead and draw my line down the center. And step one said to distribute if necessary, but I don't see any parentheses there. I have nothing to distribute. I also could check, do I have any like terms? Even though I didn't distribute, you still may have some like terms that you could combine. But on the left, we have a 5y and a minus 8, so those aren't the same. On the right side, we have a 3y and a 12. So those aren't like terms. So we can't combine anything together. So our next step would be to move the variables to one side. Probably the easiest thing would be to move this 3y over to this 5y. In order, like, it makes sure that we don't have negative numbers in, which always makes things nicer. So I'm going to subtract 3y and put it over here with 5y. So 5y minus 3y makes 2y. I still have this minus 8. I haven't done anything with that yet. So we're going to have 2y minus 8. Over here, my 3y minus 3y cancels, and I'm left with that it equals that positive 12. Now our next step could be, since we're subtracting 8, it would be to add 8 to the other side. So if I clean this up, I still have that 2y. I haven't touched it yet. So this 2y is still here. So I have 2y. My 8's cancel. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. It cancels. So I have 2y equals 12 plus 8 is 20. Now I'm going to want to get the y by itself. So this is like 2 times y. So to undo multiplication, we do the opposite, which is division. So you're going to divide both sides by 2. When you do that, you end up with y equals 10. And that is your answer. All right, let's try number 2. So I'm going to start by drawing my line down the middle. First thing I look is there anything to distribute? Do I see parentheses anywhere? And I do not again, so I don't have to distribute. I check to see if there's any like terms. So again, if we look, we have a negative 6x and a 14. Those aren't the same. We have a 12 and an 8x, and those are not the same either. So we do not have any like terms to combine. So the next step says then, step 3, says to move the variables to one side. So again, it doesn't matter which one you choose to move. We generally move everything to the left, or we do whatever could help keep our x positive, because it's just a lot easier when x is positive. Nobody likes to deal with negative numbers. So I'm going to actually move this minus 8x over here with this negative 6x. The reason it's easiest to do that is because if I add 8x over to this side, positive 8x minus 6x makes 2x. So my x's are positive, and I like that. I still have this plus 14, and it's still going to equal 12. My negative 8x and positive 8x cancel. So then from here, I can solve this two-step equation. So to get this x all by itself, I'm going to have to first move the 14. Since it's being added, I'm going to subtract 14 and put it on the other side. On the left side then, I still have this 2x. 14 minus 14 cancels. On the right side, 12 minus 14 is negative 2. So now I'm left with 2x equals negative 2. So we can divide both sides by 2 to get the x by itself. I now have x by itself. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So you get x equals negative 1 for your answer. All right, we are going to jump to the back of this page and do number 7. All right, so for number 7, it says to do 3 times 6p minus 1 equals 11p minus 45. So remember, step 1 says to look for parentheses and distribute if you can. So I can see I finally have a set of parentheses here, the 6p minus 1, which means I have to use the distributive property. So I'm going to multiply this 3 in here. So I have to do 3 times 6p, which gives me 18p. And then this I have to do 3 times negative 1. Remember, a minus a number is the same as that number being negative. So that's like 3 times negative 1, which is negative 3. My other side at this point will just stay the same. There's nothing to distribute. Then we're going to check, is there any like terms to combine? So if we look at the left side, we have 11p minus 3, or sorry, 18p minus 3. So the 18 has a p on it, the 3 doesn't, so those are not like terms. On the right side of our equation, we have an 11p and a 45. So they both don't have p's on them, so those are not like terms. So now I jump to step 3 and I move the p's all to one side. So I'm going to subtract 11p because this is a positive 11. That's why I subtract it. Remember to use the sign in front, like this is technically a positive 11. I'm going to subtract 11p from both sides. When I do that, 18p minus 11p is 7p. I still have this minus 3 equals my positive 11p and negative 11p cancel. And you have to be really careful here. This is a negative 45. Again, when you're subtracting a number, it's the same thing as that number being negative. So you can either say minus 45 or it's the same thing as plus negative 45. So you have to include this negative sign in front. So that's why that's down there. All right, so if we finish solving, I'm going to move my plus 3 over here. I'm left with 7p. My 3's cancel. Over here, negative 45 plus 3 is negative 42. Do not be scared to put that in a calculator. It's okay. Use your calculator. All right, to get the p by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 7, and I get that p equals negative 6. Okie dokie. Let's try number 8. Again, step 1 says, look to see if you can distribute. Are there parentheses there? There are. I have a set on the left side, and I also have a set on the right side. So I'm going to have to distribute twice. Okay, so when I multiply my 2 in here, I have to do 2 times 4w. That makes 8w. Then I have to do 2 times negative 1, which is negative 2. So when I distribute on the left, I get 8w minus 2. On the right, when I distribute, I have to do negative 10 times w. That makes negative 10w. Distribute it again, I have to do negative 10 times negative 3, and that's positive 30. And I have that. So that was step 1. Step 2 said, check to see if you have like terms on either side. So on the left here, I have an 8W and a -2. So those aren't the same. On the right side, I have a -10W, I have a 30, and I have a 4. The 30 and the 4 are like terms. They're just plain old numbers. So I can combine them together and make 34. So if I rewrite this whole thing, I have 8W minus 2 equals -10W plus 34. All right, so we've distributed, we've combined like terms. Now we're gonna wanna move the W to the other side so that all the W's are on one side. I'm gonna add this 10W over here with this 8W. Again, you wanna try to make the W positive. The other thing is it's generally on the left side. So I kind of use both those rules. So 8W plus 10W is 18W. I still have -2 equals my -10W and positive 10W cancel. So we have equals 34. Last step, I'm going to add 2, almost the last step, I guess I should say. Add 2. I get 18W equals 34 plus 2 is 36. And then I'll divide by 18 on both sides to get the W all by itself. So 36 divided by 18 is 2. So you should get that W equals 2. All right, let's try another example. Let's jump down here to number 11. All right, so first step says look for parentheses. Can we distribute? I see 2 sets again. All right, so let's distribute to start. This is kind of tricky on this left side. This is like a 1 in front of here. Right, so it's like we're distributing a -1. So when nothing's written there and there's just a minus sign there, it's like distributing a -1. So if I rewrite this, I still have that 5x. Then I have to do -1 times x, which is -1x. Then I have to do -1 times -18, which is +18. So that's my left side. When I do this on my right side, this 6 is not what's being distributed. That's just going to stay 6. I'm distributing a -2. So I have to do -2 times x, which is -2x. Then I'm going to do -2 times +15, which makes -30. Once you've distributed, we're going to combine like terms. So on this left side, I have a 5x minus 1x, and that makes 4x. So I have 4x plus 18 equals, on the right side, I have a 6, a +6, and a -30. So if you type in a calculator, 6 minus 30, you should get that it's a -24. Then I still have this -2x. I didn't do anything with that, so I'm going to rewrite it out front as -2x. All right, so now I've distributed, I've combined like terms. My last thing is to move my x's to one side. So this is a -2x. So to get that to the other side, I have to do the opposite, so I'm going to add 2x. So 4x plus 2x makes 6x. I haven't touched this 18, so plus 18 equals my -2x, my +2x cancel, and I'm left with -24. So again, remember that minus sign means that number is negative. All right, last few steps here. I'm going to move my plus 18 to the other side, and I do that by doing the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 18. When we do that, we have 6x. My 18 and -18 cancel. So I have 6x equals -24 minus 18 is what? So let's see here. Negative 24 and negative 10 would make negative 34 plus 8 more. I believe it's negative 42. You may want to get out your calculator and double check me. So then the very last step here would be to divide both sides by that 6. So when we do negative 42 divided by 6, we get x is negative 7. All right, that concludes your video on solving equations with variables on both sides. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. Enjoy your day.